Hi everyone, I'm Swathi from Indiahikes and you're watching Trek with Swathi. In today's video, we're talking about the difficulty level of the Goechala trek. Now, this is a very important video you need to pay attention to because Goechala is one of our more difficult treks. In our difficulty scale, we rate it as a moderate difficult trek of level 3, which means it is the more difficult of the moderate difficult treks, which means it's tougher than your Rupin Pass, your Buran Ghati, and there are many reasons for it. So, in this video, I'll tell you just how difficult it is, what are the challenges, and how you need to prepare for it. Let's get started. The first is the altitude gain coupled with steep ascents on this trek. Now this is one of the most killer challenges on the trek because there are lots of things that can go wrong because of these challenges. I'll explain it a little bit to you. Now if you study this elevation chart that you see on the screen, you will notice that you're starting this trek at Yuksom, which is at around 5,800 feet. Consider it at 6,000 feet, and within 3 days you're climbing up from Sachen to Shoka and you're reaching Zongri within 3 days of the trek. And if you see the altitude of Zongri, you're at 13,000 feet already. So you're climbing up around 7,000 feet over 3 days, and that is not easy in any way. What is more challenging is that climb from Shoka to Zongri, you're climbing almost 3,500 feet within a single day, and that's a very steep ascent and a continuous ascent. So usually these first 3 days of the treks, you'll know whether you are fit for the trek or not. Because you're climbing so fast and there is a very altitude induced fatigue in you along with these steep climbs, there is a very high chance of getting acute mountain sickness on this trek. In fact, Goechala is notorious for AMS cases and even HAPE and HACE cases. We have personally seen these cases on the trek. What makes it very difficult to handle these cases is that exit is very difficult on the trek. Once you've gone into the trek, if you've gone in 3 days, evacuation takes almost 3 days again to get you out of the trek all the way to Yuksom. So if you have AMS, this is something you must be extremely watchful about because your Shoka and Zongri are your last cut-off points. You must take a call over there about whether you must proceed further or go back. Any symptoms of AMS, even at Shoka, you should ideally turn around because from there onwards it's only climbing higher. And mind you, you're hovering at this altitude for 5 days of around 13,000 feet. So that is something you don't do on any treks. Most treks you climb to 13,000 feet, stay there for 2 days max. You climb up to that 15 and come back. But over here you're at that altitude for 5 days, whether you're going or whether you're coming back. So that is one of the things that makes this a killer ascent and a very notorious trek for acute mountain sickness. And coming to the second challenge, that was just the first challenge. The second challenge is your actual climb to viewpoint 1 itself. So on the day you're climbing to viewpoint 1, it is a very long day where you're trekking for almost 14-15 hours, and you usually start at very early hours like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. all the way to viewpoint 1. And this is also continuous ascent. So this viewpoint 1 is a day that will really test your endurance, especially because you're climbing for such long hours at such high altitudes. The third thing that makes it difficult or challenging could be the weather, especially if you're going in the summer season. In April and May, usually it rains quite a bit towards the second half of the day. And if it rains, it could also snow at the higher reaches. So you might see light snow. This is not snow that will last for very long. It might not last for 2-3 days, but if you're trekking and there is that snowfall, it is something that could make your trekking, the whole terrain, quite tricky to tackle. So that is something you need to be watchful about. So overall, if you ask me what is really going to test you, it is the altitude. Along with altitude, the steep ascent, because even 2 kilometers can seem like 5 kilometers when you're walking at such altitudes. And aside from this, the long days, especially towards the second half of the trek, that's your viewpoint 1 day and the last 2 days when you're returning, you're climbing almost 13-14 kilometers on all those days. So these are the things you need to really prepare for. Of course, don't ignore AMS. So what you can do to prepare is get fit for the trek first of all. It will need at least 2 months of thorough fitness preparation to get fit for the Goechala trek. We recommend running because it's one of the most simple things to do, and it works on the same muscles that you use while trekking. That's your glutes, your calves, your hamstrings, all of them get worked on. Plus you're building your endurance at the same time. So running is definitely something we recommend. Target running 5 kilometers in around 30 minutes because this is, if you hit this target, you'll know you can do the Goechala trek comfortably. And don't hit this target once, you will need to be able to do it consistently before the trek. I would also recommend running 10k a couple of times and seeing how long you take to do that 10k distance. Ideally, you should be able to do it in 60 minutes or so. More than anything, it will show you where you stand in terms of fitness and whether you can do the Goechala trek. It will also give you a confidence boost if you can do that. So go ahead and prepare well for the trek. If you're going on the trek, one of the things you must do to prepare mentally is to study about AMS, learn about what symptoms to watch out for, learn about how to treat it in case you get any symptoms, learn about your LSDs, those are your life-saving drugs, Diamox, Nifedipine and dexamethasone. And more than anything, learn how to prevent AMS because you will ideally need to be on a preventive course of Diamox if you're going to Goechala. So be very careful about AMS because that is what is the most challenging part of Goechala. If you do all this, then you'll be able to do the Goechala trek comfortably. Do not underestimate this trek. You need to prepare well for the trek and go for it. If you have any questions, write to me on tws@indiahikes.com. or even better, drop in a comment so that others can also learn. If you have done the Goechala trek, I'd love to learn about how difficult it was for you and what you found challenging. So drop in a comment and let us all know. We have other videos on the Goechala trek, the deep dive series. We have a video shot at Goechala itself by a few of our trekkers, so make sure you take a look at those. We'll be back with more soon.